Throughout history, humans have created amazing things: cities, art, laws, and technology. But humans have also created tools meant only for pain. Torture devices were not accidents. They were carefully designed. Every spike, screw, and blade had one purpose: to break the human body and spirit. This video explores the 20 most horrific torture devices ever built by humans. What you are about to hear is worse than you think, not because of blood, but because of intention. 2. Torture as power and control. Torture was never just about punishment. It was about control. Rulers used torture to force obedience. Churches used it to enforce belief. Governments used it to silence enemies. Pain became a language of power. 3. The psychology behind torture devices. Many devices were designed to kill slowly. Others avoided death entirely. Why? Because fear lasts longer than pain. A screaming victim warned everyone else: obey or suffer. 4. Public fear versus private pain. Some torture was done in public to scare crowds. Other torture happened in dark rooms where no one could hear screams. Both were equally cruel. 5. The Iron Maiden. The Iron Maiden was a metal coffin filled with spikes. When closed, the spikes pierced the body, but avoided vital organs. Victims died slowly, bleeding in darkness. 6. The Brazen Bull. This device was a hollow metal bull. The victim was locked inside. A fire was lit beneath. As the person screamed, pipes turned their cries into animal sounds. Entertainment and cruelty became one. 7. The Rack. The rack stretched the human body. Slowly, inch by inch. Joints popped, muscles tore. Confessions followed, true or false. 8. Judas' Cradle. The victim was lowered onto a sharp pyramid. Gravity did the rest. It caused unbearable pain without quick death. 9. Breaking Wheel. Victims were tied to a wheel. Bones were smashed with iron bars. Sometimes they were left alive for days. 10. The Pear of Anguish. This metal device was inserted into the mouth or body. A screw expanded it inside. The pain was unimaginable. 11. The Scold's Bridle, used mostly on women. It was an iron mask with a spike inside the mouth. Speaking caused pain. Silence was forced. 12. The Spanish Donkey. Victims were seated on a sharp ridge. Weights were tied to their legs. Slow tearing followed. 13. Bamboo torture, used in Asia. Victims were tied above growing bamboo shoots. Bamboo grows fast and sharp. 14. Lynchi, death by 1,000 cuts. Small pieces of flesh were cut over time. The goal was suffering, not speed. 15. The Strappado, hands tied behind the back. Victims were lifted by ropes. Shoulders dislocated. Pain became endless. 16. The Head Crusher, a metal helmet tightened slowly. Teeth shattered. Eyes burst. Death came eventually. 17. The Boot. Legs were placed inside boots filled with wedges. These were hammered in. Bones crushed from inside. 18. The Chair of Torture, covered in spikes. Victims were tied down. Fire sometimes added. 19. Rat torture. A cage with rats was placed on the body. Heat forced rats to dig inward. Cruel imagination had no limits. 20. The Heretic's Fork. A metal fork fixed under the chin and chest. Sleep became impossible. 21. The Spanish Tickler. Iron claws tore flesh from the body. Blood loss was slow. 22. The Breast Ripper. Used on women. Heated iron claws destroyed flesh. Punishment became humiliation. 23. The Wooden Horse. Victims were forced to sit on a sharp beam. Pain increased with added weights. 24. The Coffin Torture. Victims were locked inside iron cages shaped like humans. They were left to die publicly. 25. Why many victims were innocent. Most victims confessed to stop pain. Truth did not matter. Fear did. 26. Torture and religion. Religion often justified torture as saving souls. Pain became holy. 27. Torture and politics. Kings and rulers used torture to remove threats. Power protected itself. 28. Why torture was worse than death. Death ends pain. Torture prolongs it. That was the goal. 29. What history teaches us. Torture shows how far humans can fall when power lacks empathy. 30. Conclusion. Never forget this darkness. These devices remind us of humanity's darkest side. Remembering them is not entertainment, it is a warning. Have you ever wondered why torture was so common throughout history? We often think of it as just a brutal form of punishment, something out of a medieval horror movie. But the truth is much more complex and, frankly, more chilling. Torture was never just about hurting people. It was about control. It was a carefully crafted tool, a dark art perfected over centuries to bend the human will. Think about it. From ancient empires to medieval kingdoms, rulers faced a constant challenge. How do you keep millions of people in line? How do you make sure they pay their taxes, follow your laws, and don't even think about rebellion? The answer, for many, was fear. And nothing creates fear like the public spectacle of pain. The rack, the Iron Maiden, the thumbscrews. These weren't just instruments of agony. They were instruments of propaganda. Every scream that echoed from the dungeon, every public execution, was a message sent to the entire population. This is what happens when you defy us. Pain became the ultimate language of power, a language everyone understood. But it wasn't just kings and emperors who wielded this terrible power. Religious institutions also saw its utility. During periods like the Spanish Inquisition, torture became a primary method for enforcing religious doctrine. The goal wasn't just to punish heretics. It was to purify their souls and, more importantly, to root out any belief that challenged the church's authority. Confessions, often extracted under unimaginable duress, were used to justify the system. They created a narrative that a hidden enemy was lurking among the faithful, an enemy that could only be defeated through extreme measures. Torture became a twisted form of spiritual warfare, designed to control not just what people did, but what they believed. This pattern continued into the modern era. As nations formed and ideologies clashed, governments began using torture for a new purpose: to silence political enemies. In the 20th century, totalitarian regimes from Nazi Germany to the Soviet Union and beyond perfected the art of psychological torture. They understood that breaking a person's body was one thing, but shattering their mind was far more effective. Techniques like sleep deprivation, solitary confinement, and disinformation were designed to dismantle a person's identity, to make them doubt their own reality, and to turn them against their comrades. The goal was to eliminate dissent, not just by killing the dissenters, but by breaking their spirit and turning them into cautionary tales. Looking back, we see that torture is a dark thread woven through human history, always adapting, but always serving the same core purpose: control. It's a terrifying testament to what people are willing to do to maintain power. Understanding this history is crucial, not to sensationalize the cruelty, but to recognize the warning signs. When we see fear being used as a political tool, when we see groups being dehumanized to justify violence, we're seeing the echoes of this same dark logic. It reminds us that protecting human dignity and speaking out against cruelty isn't just a moral choice. It's a vital defense against the oldest and most dangerous form of oppression. Throughout history, humanity has devised some truly horrifying methods of punishment. While we often think of the guillotine or the Iron Maiden, there are other lesser-known devices that are arguably even more terrifying. Today, we're delving into the dark history of one such instrument, a device designed not for a quick end, but for prolonged, unimaginable agony de Judas Credo. Picture this: a tall, wooden structure, almost like a stool, but instead of a flat seat, it's topped with a sharply pointed pyramid. This pyramid, often made of wood or tipped with iron, was the centerpiece of the torture. Then, slowly, painstakingly, they would be lowered. The sharp point was positioned depressed into the most sensitive areas of the body. Gravity was the executioner's assistant, its constant pull ensuring the pyramid's point dug deeper and deeper. The sheer cruelty of this device lay in its design. It wasn't meant to kill quickly. In fact, a swift death was something the victim would have prayed for. The goal was to inflict maximum pain and humiliation over hours, sometimes even days. The weight of the victim's own body became the instrument of their suffering. As exhaustion set in, their muscles would fail, causing them to sink further onto the point, leading to excruciating internal injuries. To prolong the ordeal, torturers might even lift the victim for a brief respite, only to lower them again, intensifying the agony. The psychological terror was just as potent as the physical pain, suspended, exposed, and completely at the mercy of their captors. The victim faced a slow, agonizing descent into oblivion. The public nature of these punishments, often carried out in dungeons or public squares, added a layer of profound humiliation. It was a spectacle of suffering, a warning to others. The lack of hygiene meant that even if a victim somehow survived the initial torture, a fatal infection from the unclean device was almost certain. The Judas cradle, also known as the Judas chair, is believed to have been used during the Spanish Inquisition, though its exact origins are debated by historians. Its name is a grim reference to Judas Iscariot, the apostle who betrayed Jesus, suggesting it was used to extract confessions from those accused of heresy. The device was a tool of coercive power, designed to break a person's will, to force them to confess to anything, true or not, just to make the pain stop. It's a chilling reminder of the depths of human cruelty. Instruments like the Judas cradle weren't just about punishment. They were about demonstrating absolute power and instilling fear. They represent a time when justice was intertwined with brutality, and suffering was seen as a legitimate means to an end. Learning about these dark chapters of our past is unsettling, but it's important. It highlights how far we've come in our understanding of justice and human rights, and it serves as a stark warning against the dangers of unchecked power and dehumanization. Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of history's darkest corners. It's a somber topic, but understanding the past is crucial to building a better future. If you found this exploration of history fascinating, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that have shaped our world. See you in the next one.